Welcome back to Let the Chips Fly podcast. And in this episode, we talk about the 2026 July newsletter called Chips from the Charlotte Woodcarvers.
I'm so excited for this one.
Right. So today we're looking at how the intense, zero-mistake world of ATM software security perfectly overlaps with the whimsical art of carving wooden caricature pigs.
Yeah, it's quite the transition.
It really is. Our mission today is to explore what makes a passionate local club tick. We want you to just sit back and learn how a dedicated community of artists not only hones an ancient craft, but also, takes care of each other in the modern world.
It's a fascinating document. I mean, when you think of a monthly bulletin for a local hobby club, the assumption is usually just a dry list of dates and times.
Exactly, like meeting locations and that's it.
Right. But jumping right into these pages reveals a window into this highly organized, deeply heartwarming, and honestly surprisingly intricate world. It's about so much more than just whittling a piece of wood. It functions as a complete ecosystem.
Well, let's start with the social foundation of that ecosystem, which brings us to the opening message from the club's president, Steve Stilitano.
Right. He kicks things off by pointing the membership toward the most important event of the summer.
The July 18th Summer Social.
Yeah, they're gathering in the fellowship hall for a classic potluck. The club provides the main dish, and every family is asked to bring a side.
But he also introduces a brand new accolade.
Oh, the People's Choice Award.
Yes. Members are encouraged to bring their best, most recent carvings to the social. Everyone gets one ballot to vote for, the most creative, best carved, or just their personal favorite piece.
It turns a standard dinner into a polite, folksy exhibition of skill.
And the prize for this prestigious 2026 People's Choice Award.
Yeah.
Steve hilariously notes that the physical prize is still a mystery, but he officially goes on the record to guarantee that it will not be a toilet seat or a broom.
That little joke gives you such a great sense of the club's personality.
It really does.
But alongside the humor, you see a strong current of civic duty. During this same social, they are collecting non-perishable food and monetary donations for an organization called Nourish Up.
Yeah, they specifically mentioned two members, Bill Robinson and Rich DeFranco, who are out there delivering food weekly to families in need. The carving is the shared interest, but community service is really the anchor here.
It absolutely is.
And that internal support system shows up in wonderfully mundane ways too, like the member shout-out section.
Ah, the tale of the folding tables.
Okay, let's unpack this. In the newsletter, President Steve specifically takes the time to formally recognize a member named Benny Montgomery.
Because Benny overheard someone complaining about the tables.
Exactly. The clips holding the legs of the club's folding tables were broken. The legs kept falling out, making the morning setup a total nightmare.
Right.
So Benny takes the initiative, tracks down a vendor, and gets replacement clips for all the broken tables. To me, Benny is the ultimate unsung hero. He is like the roadie for a massive rock tour.
That's a great comparison.
Right. The roadie checks the amps, tapes down the cables, and secures the stage so the rock stars can actually play their instruments. Without the roadie, there is no show. But why dedicate prominent space on page 1 of an art club's main newsletter to talk about table clips?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, a hobby club like this is fundamentally built on mutual support.
Okay.
When you read about Benny's table clips or Bill and Rich's food drives, you realize that the real glue of this organization isn't the wood or the knives. By highlighting those table clips, the president is signaling to the entire membership that acts of service,
No matter how small.
exactly, no matter how small, logistical, or unglamorous, they are just as vital to the club's survival as carving a masterpiece. It establishes a culture where people look out for one another.
Wow, yeah. And that culture of care isn't just about setting up physical tables. It is about saving fellow members from intense artistic frustration.
Which is huge.
They actively, systematically teach one another how to conquer this incredibly difficult medium. The newsletter recaps a month of intense, member-led instruction for beginners in June. Like Steve Stilitano taught a Moravian star class.
And for those who don't know, a Moravian star is this complex, multi-pointed, three-dimensional geometric star.
Trying to carve one symmetrically out of a single block of wood looks mathematically impossible to a beginner.
It really does. You also had Keith Jones teaching how to carve the classic ball in a cage puzzle.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, it is exactly what it sounds like. A wooden ball trapped inside a wooden cage, all carved from one solid piece of timber. You have to carefully slice away the material from the inside out to free the ball without breaking the bars.
Such a massive spatial challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Then there is Paul DeRozier, who taught a chip carving class on June 23rd. Chip carving is a highly specific style where you use a specialized knife to remove precise, triangular chips of wood from a flat surface to create these intricate geometric patterns.
And the newsletter notes that chip carving is entirely about muscle memory, so Paul didn't just lecture. He provided a detailed practice board for the attendees to carve directly into.
That's such a good idea. But out of all these classes, the one taught by Rod Gatlin on June 16th completely fascinated me.
Oh, the face carving class?
Yes. Carving a human face is notoriously difficult. The proportions, the symmetry, the expression, it is terrifying. But Rod's class teaches students how to carve a face on the corner piece of a block of wood.
The newsletter points out that this is a great, less expensive way to learn.
I am genuinely obsessed with this concept. Why does constraining a 3D art project to a geometric corner make such a notoriously difficult subject easier for a beginner to grasp?
What's fascinating here is the pedagogical brilliance of that approach. Think about a standard, flat block of wood. It is essentially a blank canvas.
Right.
For a beginner, a blank canvas is paralyzing. Where do you make the first cut? How deep do you go? By moving the face to the corner of the block, Rod instantly establishes the central axis of the human face. Oh, wow. So the sharp edge of the corner is literally the tip of the nose.
Exactly. The geometry of the wood does half the spatial work for you. It naturally slopes away from that center line, mimicking the way a human face curves back toward the ears.
That is brilliant.
Breaking a complex, intimidating task into a constrained, manageable geometry is an elite educational strategy.
Yeah.
It completely removes the overwhelm. You aren't carving a whole head, you are just working off an existing angle.
But, understanding the geometry of a human face doesn't help much if your knife keeps tearing the wood grain instead of slicing it cleanly. To execute these techniques, you eventually hit a mechanical wall where you just need highly specialized steel.
Which perfectly explains why the club brings in vendors like Cody Cube. The newsletter highlights the upcoming CWC tool sale on July 21st.
Happening during their normal Tuesday session, right?
Yeah. Cody is a vendor from their recent showcase, bringing in his specialized tools for the members to purchase.
I have to imagine a community like this suffers from what we call tool acquisition syndrome.
Oh, absolutely. It's that trap in almost every hobby, where you convince yourself that buying Cody's $100 imported gouge will instantly make you a master carver rather than just putting in the practice hours.
Tool acquisition syndrome is very real, but you do reach a threshold where cheap steel simply will not hold the razor edge required for fine detail work. You have to upgrade your gear.
That's a fair point.
And once you have the right tools, you need the right reference material to push your skills forward.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the hyper-specialization of these reference books is off the charts. Editor Neil McGuire runs a book review section highlighting a series published by the Caricature Carvers of America, or the CCA.
The release schedule for these is wild.
Listen to this. In 2019, they published Thinking Inside the Rough Out, featuring insights from 28 different carvers on everything from starting to finishing a piece. It sounds like a great comprehensive guide.
A solid foundation.
Right. But then, 4 years later, in 2023, they publish The Eyes Have It, an entire book dedicated solely to carving eyes.
Just eyes.
Also in 2023, they drop Pick Your Nose and Carve It.
A fantastic title.
Unbeatable pun. In 2024, they release Read My Lips, all about mouths. And finally, the 2025 release, I'm All Ears. Wait, they published an entire physical book just on carving ears.
Yes, they did.
That sounds absurd. Is there really enough variation in a wooden ear to justify a whole book? Or is this just a club taking themselves way too seriously?
Well, it sounds excessive from the outside, but it is actually the literal documentation of granular mastery.
Granular mastery.
Yeah. In almost any discipline, true expertise requires you to eventually abandon the holistic view to obsess over a single, highly specific component. I mean, the eyes require a completely different knife technique and shadow management than the ears do. An ear has overlapping folds of cartilage that demand incredibly complex sweeping cuts in tight spaces.
Okay, that makes sense.
By isolating these features into separate books, the CCA is acknowledging that you don't just learn to carve a caricature. You master the anatomy piece by micropiece.
So what happens when you combine that mutual community support, the right steel, and a book entirely dedicated to carving ears? You get incredible artists.
You really do.
The newsletter features a member profile of Robert Waters. He started out building things with a pound of nails on an eastern NC farm, was inspired by Tom Wolfe at the NC State Fair, and took classes at the John C. Campbell Folk School.
He took classes there with instructors like Helen Gibson.
Right. And today, Robert enjoys carving in that traditional John C. Campbell folk-style caricature animals. He wants to improve his face carving, inspired by a friendship lamp his wife bought at a 2026 show.
It's a great journey.
But the detail that really jumped out is that he recently retired to focus on this. And what did he retire from? An ATM software security company.
Quite the pivot.
So what does this all mean? How does a person go from the rigid, zero-tolerance world of ATM software security to the whimsical, subjective world of folk art caricature animals?
This raises an important question about how our diverse professional backgrounds inform our tactile hobbies. Both software security and wood carving require immense patience, problem solving, and a hyper-focus on minute details.
Because one wrong line of code and the bank vault is wide open.
Precisely. Now, take that same brain and apply it to a block of basswood. Wood carving demands that exact same zero-tolerance focus. If your knife slips a fraction of an inch, the caricature's nose snaps off.
You cannot hit undo in wood carving.
No, you can't. They're just applied to different mediums. And Robert is just one of many prolific artists featured. The What We Do In section is packed with photographic evidence of the club's output.
Oh, the diversity of the projects is staggering. You have Joe Davis and Keith Jones both working on these intricate multi-piece bark houses. Carving bark is an entirely different beast.
It is rough, brittle, and highly unpredictable. Achieving tight, seamless precision with such a crumbly material requires a very delicate touch.
Contrast that with Bob Gerb carving basswood eggs into mice covered in daisies. Starting with a pre-shaped basswood egg is a clever trick, like Rod Gatlin teaching faces on a corner.
The form is already sloping. Bob just had to apply the delicate surface details. Meanwhile, Dave Clark is carving a highly detailed stack of books out of a solid block of wood.
The range of techniques is deeply impressive. They even mention Pat Coffey, who is a favorite instructor at the barn. The artistic output is clearly thriving, but a club doesn't survive to its 44th year by just looking at today's carvings.
No, they have to manage the future.
They're already planning the 44th Showcase of Wood Carvings for April 9 through 11, 2027, with the fantastic theme caught in the ACT.
A fun, dynamic prompt.
To prepare, they carve Tuesdays at the Cathcart Center, Fridays in Monroe, and the fourth Saturday of the month.
But nestled right below all these wonderful dates, there is a striking warning box.
Yes, the club had to put out an explicit warning about text message scams, warning members not to send money to scammers impersonating other members. It's a sharp, jarring contrast to the folksy vibe of the rest of the newsletter.
It really is.
It's like Mayberry meeting the digital age.
It highlights the vulnerability of trust. Scammers specifically target tight-knit hobbyist communities because the members inherently trust one another. It highlights the friction between an ancient, tactile craft and modern digital communication.
It adds a poignant layer to the Yogi Berra quote they included. If you don't know where you're going, you might wind up someplace else.
You have to be intentional.
I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over. Think back to Rod Gatlin's beginner class, Carving a Face on a Corner. I want you to consider your own life or career. What daunting, complex task are you currently facing?
We all have one.
And how can you break it down into a manageable, corner-sized practice piece to overcome your fear of the blank canvas?
Find the corner, the rest starts to take shape.
Go to charlottewoodcarvers.com/newsletters for the PDF version of this newsletter and all the past newsletters dating back to 1983.